What's up, guys? It is Illuminostic, and I'm hearing some pretty bad echo, aren't I? Hold on, let me see if I can find out why. Sure can. All right. That is because I was doing a music stream, and we got very little audience, so I decided to pop over and do this stream instead because I found something the other day. Sorry about the blender. We're behind on a project, so it's just got to happen right now. But, you know, I've been talking a lot about higher self and genius and the sort of tricks that you can use to access what I believe is a connection that everyone has to the universal mind, and it could have all sorts of, you know, potential definitions. Future self perfected that somehow we're able to receive information from. You know, we're told by some physicists that time is not actually linear. And so, you know, there's all kinds of possibilities as to how this could occur. But the one thing I'm certain of is that, you know, despite the fact that for myself, it's been pretty intermittent throughout my life, I've never really had a consistent connection with this. But, you know, there's no doubt in my mind that I've received like legitimate precognitions and advice that I couldn't possibly have generated when I was very, very young, and just all sorts of different manifestations of sort of receiving downloads, as people call it. And so one of the things that I noticed about all of this is that it seems that having, you know, a clear picture of what your true will, your higher purpose is on this planet, your essential function, you know, that you are here to perform, leads people to a higher incidence of transmitting genius, right? Because that's kind of how I think of it. Something that you access more than something that you possess. And so I came upon this interview with this math prodigy, and let's go ahead and watch it because I'll just pause it and interject, but it's really interesting, and I think it really sort of proves a lot of the position that I've taken with this stuff, and you guys should find it really encouraging and inspiring, I think.
Child prodigies have long been a source of great fascination. We wonder, how can so much talent reside in such a young body, so much genius? In a moment, you'll meet Jake, a 13-year-old math and science prodigy who's confident he may one day challenge some of the established theories of physics. The source of that talent and that confidence comes from our most remarkable organ, the one we understand least, the brain. What is it about Jake Barnett that had him taking college courses at age 8 and getting A's, and by 12 doing paid scientific research? And today, at age 13, an honors college sophomore lecturing the crowd at his university science symposium.
And do any of you guys want my resume at all?
The untied shoelaces reveal either your average teenager or the first telltale signs of the absent-minded professor, or both.
And, you know, I have to pause this a lot because I don't want to get a strike or get in trouble. I don't know if 60 Minutes is something that would do that. But, you know, it's already pretty interesting to just see this kid with his untied shoelaces, which I swear, maybe it was that Albert Einstein didn't wear socks. But he's already exhibiting some of these like mad scientist characteristics at 13.
Let's look at these system of points.
Surrounded by researchers twice his age, Jake is presenting his summer physics research project on PT symmetric lattice systems.
This has implications in fiber optics, electromagnetic signals, anything that requires like a light going through a cable. Got it?
Every number or math problem I ever hear, I have permanently remembered.
You just never forget. They never
never
slip
forget.
out the back door of your brain.
No.
Is it fun for you to do it? I mean, do you get a kick out of it?
Yeah.
For Jake, fun is reciting from memory the infinite series of numbers known as pi.
3.141592653589793238462643383279502.
Jake memorized more than 200 of pi's numbers in an afternoon.
9749445923079.
And he did it just to test himself.
You want me to go backwards from there?
Well, sure.
32397985356295141.3.
Bravo. He's not just parroting a textbook. He understands and analyzes the logic of higher mathematics. He can visualize and solve complex problems by using what he calls the fourth dimension. Just exactly what is the fourth dimension?
It's hard to describe in terms of the typical 3 because it's tangent to all the other ones. I'd be able to describe it if I had like a whiteboard and like 30 minutes to describe it. It takes a while. It's the fourth dimension. What do you expect?
The numbers appear to him as shapes that he says just build on one another.
So this
Okay, now you guys remember how lately I've been talking about how 9 is circular, 6 is a triangular number, but it's not just a triangular number. 6 is a triangular number, 66 is a triangular number, 666 is a triangular number, and they build upon each other. You know what I mean? These correlations, like in this kid talking about, you know, fourth dimensional reality, and he's seeing these connections overtly. Whereas, you know, normal people might come to understand these things after studying the occult and achieving higher states of consciousness, you know, on a regular basis. And you know what I mean? So I think that's a really interesting thing to take note of. You know, obviously I hadn't heard this kid say that when I started streaming about these things a couple of weeks ago.
for example, is 3 cubed or 27. And then if I want to do 54, I just stack another one onto it.
By the way, that shape right there, you guys might recognize as the ascending and descending tongues of grace from the Masonic, chapter 69 of the Book of Lies is probably what's made that the most famous. But I also thought that was an interesting connection that happens to be what the kid was constructing there.
He says his mind is constantly buzzing with new physics problems and theories. When he runs out of wall space, he moves on to windows. Remembering things so precisely, does that ever become a burden to you?
No, not at all.
No sense of overload?
I remember math and numbers. I don't remember other things. For example, if someone asks me where something is in the house, I tell them I don't know.
The oldest of 4 kids, Jake lives with his family in the suburbs of Indianapolis.
These are my periodic table. It's got all my elements.
He used the money he made from his summer research project, $3,200, to turn his bedroom into a science lab.
Copernicus was the most recently named element.
For as long as he can remember, he's been fascinated by the mysteries of space.
Saturn is my favorite planet, not due to the rings, but due to some of its moons.
Any ambition to be an astronaut?
Not an astronaut. That's like too dangerous. I'm going to be the guy controlling the astronauts. If anyone's an astronaut, it's going to be my brother.
All work and only occasional play does not make Jake a dull boy. What do you do for fun?
When it isn't anything academic.
No, I mean beyond the academics.
Does looking up space articles online count?
Pi a cubed divided.
He has a full scholarship at the joint Indiana University-Purdue campus in Indianapolis, where he is an honors student in math and physics.
Now you see what happens when you're doing your true will. Like this, there's so much to unpack here, but you know, the basic simple stuff I think is, you know, really obvious. When you find your singular purpose and you are absolutely concentrated on it, everything else disappears. And so the entirety of your intelligence and cognitive capacity directed at this one thing, not only can you achieve extraordinary results, and remember, you know, this kid, they've labeled him autistic, but I don't know how meaningful that even is. You know, it could be just that this is the next evolutionary expression, you know, that it's evolution. It's not some defect, you know. Of course, there are extreme cases where it becomes obviously defective, or, you know, where it's causing problems for people. But the fact that, you know, the book of the law predicts that people would eventually just organically start to think and pursue in this way, and that the universe would sort of engineer them, or that it's the byproduct of just, you know, genetic perfection, that eventually we come with blinders on so we can only see our path blazing in front of us. And I would also note that this kid is doing shit that is extremely complicated and difficult. And for most people, it would be a terrific bore at best and mind-splitting tedium at worst. Well, really impossible. And you see this kid doing it, and he's just absolutely full of joy to be, you know, reciting pi to the billionth decimal in his head.
He may not be the tallest student on campus, but is surely among the brightest. He regularly gets the highest grades in his classes.
What happens if you have C sub n, where it's proportional to n?
Jake's been auditing classes here since the ripe old age of 8, when it became obvious to his parents that 3rd grade was not going to be enough for him. What did your fellow students make of it?
Everyone was thinking that mom was taking the class and she couldn't find a babysitter.
The students thought I was the student.
His parents, Christine and Michael Barnett, expected their son would quietly listen and learn. But even they were shocked when Jake jumped right into scientific discussions.
The professor would ask questions and Jake was answering them. And then he took the final at the end and got an A on it. And suddenly the people at the university took notice of that and eventually invited him to attend the university.
It's pretty shocking when an 8-year-old aces a university astronomy course. Weren't you impressed?
I guess I was impressed. I was just doing what I like to do.
No one could have predicted that Jake would even make it to college. Just before his 2nd birthday, he began to regress, stopped speaking and making eye contact. After consulting with several doctors, the diagnosis was autism.
We went through speech therapy, physical therapy, developmental therapy, occupational therapy. A therapist came to the home.
He was going further and further from our world into a world of his own. And I really was just baffled at how we were going to get him back out of that world.
And how did you get him back out of that world?
We realized that Jacob was not happy unless he was doing something he loved.
Which even as a
Bam. You hear that? And that is how every highly evolved person on this planet is, and that's how all humans really are. He's not happy unless he's doing something he loves. There's no one that is an exception to that, you know? We have people that will bite the bullet and do it anyways. That doesn't count as happiness. You know, they may be able to convince themselves that they're content living vicariously through their children once they become a parent or whatever, you know, but it's complete bullshit. You know, I still call me a corny hippie if you must, but I think that Jerry Garcia was one of the most evolved people that we've had on this planet in the last 200 years, certainly well ahead of his peers that came up in the 1950s, you know, and he was just like that. People asked him, you know, is it fun or whatever? And he would say, I wouldn't do it if it wasn't fun. They all said that. And they were serious, you know. In fact, it stopped being fun in 1974, they were going to quit. You know, just quit being rock stars because it wasn't fun. It was too much cocaine or whatever. And it just, you know, but the point is that they had the same kind of ethic that is described in the Book of the Law. And I'm sure they all had read that, but I don't think that's where it came from. You know, this is the next step in the evolutionary paradigm, and we cannot let the powers that be suppress this anymore. You know, we are going to end up collectively suicided. You know, does the algorithm catch you if you spell shit? It's funny. My mom used to do that to me when I was a kid. She would threaten suicide, and she would spell it as if that would like lessen the impact. I don't know why I just mentioned that, but. You know what I mean? Jesus, man. We have to have the determination and the courage to actually step into this reality and claim it. It's our birthright that's been stolen from us. you know? It's been proven that all children do better when they're allowed to study according to their own ingenium rather than being forced to study things that they don't want to study, you know? There's no reason to make a kid that is going to be perfectly content laying bricks to do algebra, you know? And, I mean, there's no reason to make a math prodigy study English. They're going to do it enough to support their main endeavor. And if what you're doing is meaningful to you, you know, everything that you do will be brought into line to support that one objective. And, you know, some of these autistic kids are just lucky enough to just be hardwired to do that of their own accord. By the way, hit the like button, share, subscribe. I haven't even looked at the chat. Let me see if I even am I talking to myself here? Do I have an audience? 9. I was like, damn, one person. By the way, at 10:30, I'm going to jump on and do a music stream as well tonight, and I want all you guys to come. I am trying to raise $300 this weekend for guitar repairs and travel and all of this crap that has come up that I wasn't expecting. And it's partly because I just want to see if I can do it. I mean, we've gotten close with some of the other music streams. So this weekend, trying to raise $300 in tips. And, you know, a lot of these guys that are better at OBS than me will have a little thing that says, like, tip goal. And I don't know how to do that. So I'm just telling you. Invite all your friends. Call your sister and your brother. Oh, and you know what? We might actually watch a little bit of RFK Jr. after this. Not because I support him. I don't support any politician. And he's actually kind of fallen out of favor with me along with the rest of them. Just under scrutiny. I think we all need to take a look at what he said on CNN the other day. If you're not aware of this,
Three-year-old
you need to say
math
it.
and science. His parents say the more he focused on the subjects he loved, the more he began to communicate.
You could just see him just relax. You could just see him feel like, thank goodness we're not working on something that I can't do today.
And how long did it take for him to, as you say, come back?
By the time he was kindergarten age, 5, 6, he was still behind as far as speaking with others and socializing with others. But he was also light years ahead of everybody else. He was coming home asking us, when am I going to learn something at school today? I want to learn algebra.
It was trying to keep Jake challenged that led to a kind of double life. Elementary school by day and sitting in on college courses in the evening. By 5th grade, he dropped out of public school, and just to demonstrate that he was ready for college, he taught himself all of high school math in just 2 weeks. He was 10 years old.
That was the most determined thing I've ever seen anybody do. He had to sit in a calculus class to prove to the university that he could sit still. And Jacob was like, I'm going to participate in that class discussion. So if I need to learn Algebra 1, Algebra 2, geometry, trig, that's what I'm going to do. And he took a stack of books and he sat down and he just
Went and taught himself all of it in 2 weeks.
Not only that, he finished the entire state of Indiana curriculum for grades 6 to 12 in little over a year. The Barnetts, who've started a center for autistic kids called Jacob's Place, say that many of Jake's symptoms of autism have disappeared.
There's certain traits that are still there, and if you really knew what you were looking for, you could dig them out. But otherwise, you know, that I got a 10-year-old kid at that point in time that just happens to be doing next level work and no one knew anything different.
Your parents told us that you're very proud of your autism.
That, I believe, is the reason why I am in college and I am so successful. It is the rise as to my love for math and science and astronomy, and it's the reason why I care. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gotten this far.
Joanne Ruthsath, a psychology professor at Ohio State, has been studying child prodigies for the last 13 years. She believes there's a link between autism and prodigies.
We know that child prodigies are having autistic relatives at a very high clip, and some of them have autism themselves.
She believes that what sets a prodigy with autism apart from other children with the condition is the prodigy's genes have been modified so that the genius emerges without many of the severe disabilities associated with autism.
In the general population of autism, 10% will have an autistic savant skill where they're exceptional at something. and they've only got that piece displaying itself.
She says for prodigies, be it in math, music, or art, the key to the extraordinary talent is extraordinary memory.
They all share this incredible memory, each and every one of them.
In Jake's case, he's 13 years old. What's remarkable is not just this memory, but his vocabulary is so adult.
Of course, they speak like adults. They've picked up so much information along the way so early in their life and continue to do so.
She says a talent like Jake's is about 1 in 10 million.
Jake's extraordinary. He's picking up information at a rate that none of us could even imagine doing it.
She's tested Jake and says he literally aces every intelligence and memory test.
Imagine if everything you saw you could remember. Every word you heard, you could recall that. And then you could integrate that information and come up with new ideas. That's what he's doing.
Kentucky, New Mexico,
A demonstration.
Nevada,
Dr. Rusatz named 28
Florida,
states in random order.
Pennsylvania, Wisconsin.
No surprise, he
North
was able to
Dakota,
do it forwards
Washington,
and backwards in sequence
Missouri,
with ease. And when asked
Texas.
again 3 months later, you still remember them
Yes, I do.
in the same order
And I can still go backwards.
and backwards? Give me 5 or 10.
Kentucky, New Mexico, Nevada, Florida, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, North Dakota, Washington, Missouri, Texas, Utah, Colorado.
While some may dismiss Jake's talent as simply a gift of remarkable memory, his physics professor says the boy is much more than a human calculator. Is it just great memory or something else?
It is definitely something else. The great memory does help him, of course, because once he reads something, he remembers it. But what is more important is that he has the drive to learn more. He definitely stands out as a powerhouse of raw talent.
Professor Yogesh Joglekar oversaw Jake's research project. Their work was published in Physical Review A. Jake is the youngest person to be published in that prestigious physics journal.
The whole randomness thing, that's like completely against all of physics.
Did you hear that shit? That really, I really would like to hear the rest of that conversation just for context. But, you know, a lot of these experts, physicists and whatnot that have worked with this kid are talking about how he's, you know, maybe going to turn physics on its head. And it sounds like he doesn't believe that it's just a bunch of random coincidence, you know, and he's making these correspondences between the geometry and the numbers and the fourth dimension and all this stuff. I'm telling you guys, this is not a disability. This is evolution. I'm autistic to an extent, you know, surprise, surprise, I guess. I wish it was worse. My grandfather was autistic, and it didn't even occur to me for years and years and years and years until, you know, really recently, actually. But, you know, I was kind of a child prodigy too. But it was just language. I was reading on an 11th grade level in second grade, and I was put in the gifted and talented programs and all that sort of thing, and socially awkward and totally alienated, and, you know. But unfortunately, in my case, it was largely suppressed by my completely insane mother. You know, it was also music. I was playing Eruption by Eddie Van Halen. I think I sight read it actually within 6 months of picking up the guitar, and my stepfather went and excitedly told her, "Do you hear your son in there playing Eruption at you know, 13, 14, wherever I was?" And she was like, "So." You know, and then she actually sold my guitar and my amp. So, you know, I mean, enough about me. But the point is that, you know, my mom was extreme, but I don't think it's really unusual for parents in this culture to do that to their children, to actually suppress and oppress them out of fear and to try to stuff them into some kind of cookie cutter mold that they think is appropriate, you know. And look what happens. Look what happens. All of these difficulties that children have had, you know, they give them ADHD medication because they won't focus on all this shit for 8 hours a day. But, you know, I guarantee you, if they were all given the opportunities that this kid did, and they were allowed to determine, to take personality tests and aptitude tests, and they were actually given curriculums based on their proclivities and natural predisposition, you know, what kind of world would we be living in? How many geniuses have we oppressed to the point of self-destruction? You know, it's really, this is why I exist, you know, to fight this fucking battle, really. So help me by joining my Patreon and sending me billions of dollars to my cryptocurrency address, PayPal, Zelle, and Cash App. If you love me, do it now.
He plans to continue his research, building on Einstein's theory of relativity. His parents say he takes on these challenges with an easy grace.
He has his own little tight-knit group of friends that he hangs out with, he studies with. He leads study groups. I have college-age girls calling the house wanting to know if Jake is available to study during finals. When I go to campus with him, it's like I'm walking around with Elvis.
So far, the king seems to keep his celebrity status in check, more or less.
Practically everyone knows who I am.
Are you a star on this campus?
Big man on campus. I just figured it out.
But the little big man says he enjoys nothing more than using his talent to help fellow classmates see the beauty he sees in the numbers.
Thanks, Jake.
You're welcome.
I kind of want to try to use that to end the whole math phobia thing.
Because so many people like me and millions of others are scared of math, are scared of science, correct?
Yeah.
Why is that so funny? You almost can't understand how anyone could be.
Exactly, yeah.
That's another, like, that's like, for me, that's like the most relatable thing ever. I'm always baffled by, you know, the whole time I was growing up, I was reading all the time, you know, and relatively advanced stuff, you know, Timothy Leary and Terence McKenna, pretty advanced for a 12-year-old, you know, and Aldous Huxley and whatnot. And I would always have like a thesaurus and a dictionary, and I would look up every single word and go through everything so tediously and memorize so much of it. You know, I can still remember from Aldous Huxley that it is fear of the labyrinthine flux and the inhospitable strangeness of the world that has driven men into the systems prepared for them by the philosophers and the founders of religion. Weary with much wandering in the maze of phenomena, frightened by the inhospitable strangeness of the world, men have rushed into these systems as if fleeing from a dark and forbidding jungle into a well-lit, commodious house, and men have been burned at the stake for questioning the color of the door or the shape of one of the windows. And I could never understand, you know, people would like laugh at me, you know, like my friends, like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, why would you do this? Like, you know, or I would have all these different intellectual pursuits, you know, just learning all the time. And people are like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And I always felt like that was just the weirdest thing. Like, why don't people want to use their brains? And, you know, reading that people don't like to think. And I'm like, is there anything else in the world that's fun besides like thinking? Like, that's really the only thing that I want to do. You know, it's I get irritated if my stream of thought is interrupted by pretty much anything, you know. And so when I heard this kid say that, you know, I was like, wow, that's awesome, because that's how people should be. You know, it should be as much of a joy to learn, you know, and have that kind of ecstatic experience from transcending, you know, difficulty and darkness and obscurity, you know. I really hope that this is a glimpse of where humanity is going. And I certainly think so. You know, again, this is why I do what I do and why I talk about the things that I talk about, because, you know, people deriving happiness from being 100% focused on one singular purpose is the absolute. How long have you guys been hearing me say this? You know, those of you that have been following, look back at all my videos and live streams. This has been my fucking point for 4 years. You know, and it's really been the point of my existence since I was, you know, 12 or something. I mean, it's so frustrating and confusing even to try to understand why it is that this is being suppressed. I mean, I do know, because, you know, you cannot manipulate a fully realized being. and people that are allowed to pursue their own ingenium, you know, genius literally means spirit, which is also pretty significant, I think. You know, magic, real magic, is about attaining knowledge and conversation of the holy guardian angel. Aleister Crowley said that any magical operation that deviates from the single purpose of connecting with your higher self is black magic. All of it. Every single fucking operation, except for gaining access to your subconscious and the gateway to the collective mind that resides therein. All black magic. And he went even further and said that if you deviate from that purpose, everything you do tends towards black magic. And what he meant is that if you are doing anything other than your true will, you have no right but to do thy will. That's it. If you deviate from your purpose, you're going to make a mess of shit. You're going to be spiteful. You're going to be egoic. You're going to be unhappy. You're going to be vapid. You're going to be all sorts of different things. And it's all black magic at the end of the day. Because it doesn't have positive consequences unless you're absolutely aligned with your singular purpose.
Jake is writing a book to help us overcome our fear of math. And he's on track to
I'm gonna read it,
graduate
for
at
sure.
age 14, when he hopes to begin his PhD studies.
All right. Well, I hope you guys understand why it is that I wanted you to watch that with me, because obviously I feel like it's an extremely important Oh, yeah. I'm supposed to say unalive. So all of you that are just jumping on here, man, go back and watch that. I was kind of rambling at the beginning a little bit because the blender was running and it was kind of confusing me. I don't know, it was scrambling my brain. But why? There's all this weird shit on the screen. I'm going to pop off and get ready for my music stream. Please join me over there because I feel like I might play okay tonight, and it's always good when I'm feeling confident. So, yeah, if you're just popping on, go back and watch the stream because it's really important, especially if you happen to be autistic or know somebody that's autistic, or even more, if you happen to be human, you probably ought to go back and watch it and really think about it. So thank you so much for spending this time with me. And send billions of dollars to my PayPal, Zelle, Cash App, or cryptocurrency. Otherwise, the bunny gets it. And I will see you guys again soon. I got lots of videos coming out this weekend. One of our house, for some reason. And visiting the Bora tribe, who are super cool. It was really nice to go there and see a really happy, healthy, indigenous community. No signs of, a lot of the problems that I've seen in other places without getting into detail, I guess. But, yeah. So, also, we are having events through March, apparently. So get in touch with me if you want to transform your consciousness. You probably do, whether you know it or not. So, good night. Man,